Welcome on in, golf fans. It's your boy Gsluke here with our DFS value plays for this week's BMW Championship. Gonna get through the bottom end of the Draftkings pricing and bring you 3 salary-saving players that you can get to go out there, open up a little bit of salary up top, and perhaps squeeze in an extra stud or two in that 9 and 10K zone. They've got the strongest field pound for pound in all of golf, a golf course that is going to play at least kind of like a major championship, maybe not quite the -4 that we had there in 2020. We'll talk about a few of the reasons why it might play a little bit easier this time around, but still a big boy track and really the best kind of field that we could look for. So if you want to spend for an extra stud or two, we want to squeeze in one of those top end players. Let's go through some of the options down low that might be able to give you that flexibility to work with. First up this week, we've got a Ryder Cup hopeful in Keegan Bradley. So you'll hear a few people talk about that narrative. I'm not really so much worried about that as much as I am about his course fit here. This is a driving heavy bent grass golf course that has Kentucky bluegrass rough. If you remember the Travelers, of course, him up there in the Northeast, he always feels pretty comfortable when you get onto the bent grass in that bluegrass rough. And we get the same situation this week. I know it's in Chicago, right? It's not really the Northeast, but from the agronomy perspective, the golf courses in the Midwest are very similar to what you get in the Northeast. In fact, even the Northwestern golf courses up there in Oregon, Washington area have the same kind of agronomy too, right? So it's more of like a north-south thing as it is more like a northeast kind of thing with the Keegan Bradley. And you've seen that success move across the country before. So $7,100. I like the agronomy. I like the fact that he should feel comfortable at this type of golf course, but also the ball striking, right? If you take a look at the last 36 measured rounds, you can see he's gaining across all 4 categories. He's been known as one of the more consistent ball strikers on all of the tour for the last decade or so, right? That's not anything new. What's new is the newfound putter, right? He's gone out there, made that a strength of his game, and about a year ago, we started to see the trend come around, right? The putter had gone hot for like a 3 to 4 month stretch. Well, he's sustained that now for over a year and a half period. So it's safe to say that Keegan Bradley's just a pretty consistent putter at this point. And if we zoom in on him, you'll see exactly that, right? Still gaining a bunch of strict strokes of the flat stick, except a little bit better with the iron play of late, which I think is cause for a lot of optimism here over the next 2 events. He's known as one of the better iron players, tee to green, right? Always been very consistent. But when it comes to the iron play specifically, Keegan Bradley always been a flusher. So I like that at a golf course that is going to play a little bit more receptive this year. And kind of like I was foreshadowing before, this golf course gonna play a little bit differently than what it did in 2020. If you saw my core plays video, my course breakdown, you know that it's gonna play extremely difficult this week, except that it's gonna be a little bit more receptive than what we saw the last time out there. In 2020, you had lower than a 50% fairway rate, lower than I believe a 60% green in regulation rate, which is unheard of for a non-major championship because of how firm and fast it was. With some storms that have come through Chicago over the last day or so, about 2 inches of rain over the last few days, is going to make this place a little bit softer than we had before, right? It's going to be easier to hit fairways and greens. The scoring's probably going to get a little bit better than what we had before, but it's going to play a lot longer, right? It's a 73, nearly 7,400 yard par 70. And when you're getting no rollout on an already long golf course with 4 to 6 inch rough like you have this week, it's going to be even more difficult off the tee, right? Course is going to play an extra 300 to 400 yards longer. So for an elite level off the tee player, an elite level iron player like a Keegan Bradley, he's going to have a huge advantage this week, right? He hits a good amount of fairways and is able to hit the ball a long way, which is a deadly combination at a major championship type of track. So I like the ball striking, of course. That's always going to be there for Keegan. But the X factor here, and it's maybe not reflected with the putting stats, is that on these northeastern type of golf courses, he's had a lot of his spike performances in the past. The US Open a few years ago, the Travelers Championship win just this year are just a few examples of those. Next up, we've got Harris English down here in the 6K range. So it's going to be one in the 7s, one player in the 6, and then of course that 5K option that I promised you guys before. But before we hop into the last 2 plays, I'll remind you guys, check out my Patreon if you haven't already. That's where I'm posting all of my player pool, all of my projections for every player in every field for the PGA Tour schedule. On there, you have access to all of the spreadsheets that you see on my videos without anything blacked out, of course, right? So you can see my modeling for every player, projections, ownership, so on and so forth as they change throughout the week. And of course, all of my prop and showdown content throughout the week as well. So check it out if you haven't already. And of course, you get to see all the guys right towards the bottom of the board that I'm playing, because it surely just won't just be these 3 players. Next up, we've got Harry English, 6,400 bucks, and I like him at difficult golf courses. And it might not be super obvious, right? You might not think of Harris English and immediately go, oh, major championship type of killer, but he has been, right? A few examples: Winged Foot in 2020, one of my top comp courses for what we're going to get this week. He finished up there in the top 10. This year, played really well at Bay Hill. Year before that, without really having any kind of form, the time before at Bay Hill, nearly won the golf tournament that time. You've gotten him at a few, more difficult than average golf courses. Go out there and nearly win the damn thing. So he's not known as a difficult course killer, but if you just sort on any sort of database by super difficult conditions, the most difficult filter that you have on any of those available databases, and he's going to be like a top 15 player in the field. And when you're in a major championship caliber field, you have literally the who's who of all of golf right out there teeing it up this week. That's an impressive stat line to have. And at $6,400, we've got to latch on to something, right? We're down here trying to save some salary. We're trying to take a shot on somebody that's obviously got a lower percentage outcome. But at $6,400, he's been playing decent golf over the last few months. Maybe not amazing over the last 12. You can see they've been a little bit of a down stretch over the last few events, but still gaining with the irons, which is great to see, right? That's the one category that you pretty much got to have. Off the tee, maybe a little inconsistent, and then the putter and short game, that'll turn around at some point. Harry English, one of the better short game players on all of the world, not even just on the PGA Tour at this point. So I'm not worried about that whatsoever. That'll turn around. He's just way too talented to go out there and lose strokes to the field like that. And on Bent Poa, you can see gains over half a stroke per round on this surface. So he's got the agronomy going for him. He's got the difficult track record going for him. Again, the shots gained difficult golf courses just pops through the roof. And then what I'm mainly looking at here for Harris English is low ownership. Compared to a few guys like Adam Schenk, even like an Eric Cole around him, you're looking at lower ownership numbers than I think you probably should. So I'll definitely be getting there on those 2 players. And guys, I'll be mixing into my player pool for sure. All right, and our last value going to be Kurt Kitayama. And speaking of the API, right, obviously your winner this year was Kurt Kitayama, and somebody who at Oak Hill, my other main comp course, other than Winged Foot that we had there for majors, went out there, he top 5 finished this year. It was a value play for us at another off the tee heavy kind of golf course. And once again, it's a track where it's going to reward you with that distance off the tee. It'd be about throwing about darts from the rough, right? If you're going to miss a lot of fairways, right, you've got to be a good iron player from the rough. And the main reason we played Kitayama out there at Oak Hill is we looked at his approach numbers out of the rough. You may remember, right? He was a top 5 player in the major championship field at shots gained approach out of rough. Now, the numbers have definitely dwindled. They've regressed back to the mean, as some would say out there. But at $5,600, still excellent off the tee and still a top 10 approach player out of the rough for this field. So I like to see that at $5,600. We go down here to the shots gained metrics. They haven't been amazing of late, right? You zoom in, he's definitely been in a sorry stretch of form. In terms of finishes, he's gone out there and gone T52, T60, T54. So he's making cuts earlier, right? Last week, obviously no cut event, so it'd be pretty hard for him to have a missed cut right there. But, the last 36 rounds are a little better, right? You zoom out a little bit, he gains across 3 of the 4 categories, losing a little bit off the tee, which you don't love to see, but historically, that's his best category, right? An elite level driver that hits the ball a country mile, and when he's locked in with the accuracy, can hit quite a few fairways as well, right? Just look at his Honda Classic near win over there a few years ago, win at the API this year, right? You've got to drive the ball really well to win at that kind of golf course. So he's definitely shown us in the past the ability to go out there and spike perform. So another player that's only like 10% owned, believe it or not, Patrick Rogers, even higher owned than a Kurt Kitayama here. So it's not like he's mega chalky out here, right? 10% in the $5,000 range, even $6,000 range would normally be way chalkier than we'd like, but there's only 50 players in the player pool, right? The average ownership for somebody this week is well over the 10% mark. So don't feel like you're taking somebody that's egregiously chalky just because they're 10% in this kind of field. And with the kind of upside that Kurt Kitayama brings to the table, definitely somebody that I think you should at least keep an eye on for your large field lineups. Alrighty guys, that is all I've got for the value plays this week. Of course, best of luck out there with all of your lineups, any outright bets you decide to go with. My main outrights this week, we went with Hovland, Fleetwood, and Cam Young. A few others I'm considering adding, at least in terms of long shots, but that's going to be the main betting card for now. Down in the comments, let me know who you're taking as a value play, and of course, maybe your top outright bet. We're at that point of the week where you're starting to get your betting card together and finalized. Let me know who you're putting your money behind this week, right? Where you're putting your money behind your mouth. I'd love to hear that. Appreciate all the support here in the channel as per usual. Smash that like button on the way out of here. And if you haven't already subscribed to the channel, make sure you do as well so you don't miss any of the content throughout the week. We'll have fades and sleepers dropping tomorrow morning. Also, of course, our weekly DFS live stream, which will be tomorrow evening at 7 p.m. Eastern. So stop on by, bring in any questions you've got. We'll go through the weather, DFS chalk, anything you want to chat about there before lock, and get ready to go out there and have ourselves a week. Until then, guys, like I said, appreciate it, and let's go out there and get this cash.